What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and I just want to give a little shout out to these people. It's not getting better, is it? it's not getting better. So apparently Ancelotti wants to take Richarlison with him. Now look, I feel like we all sort of need to be honest with ourselves at the minute. I feel like a lot of Everton fans said a lot of things to support Carlo Ancelotti when he was the Everton manager, i.e. he was absolutely horrendous for a lot of the season as manager. Our home form is the second worst in history. His objective was to finish at the start of the season in the top 4, then the top 6, then to finish in Europe, and he failed everything. And we all sort of give him the benefit of the doubt, and we all sort of said, yeah, we trust Carlo. But really, when you look at it, we should have criticised him just because it's Carlo Ancelotti. And to be fair, actually, can I just add, I did say this. If this was any other manager, he'd have been thrown under the bus. You know, he really didn't do well this season. Look, he got a decent amount of points. Fair enough. Our away form was exceptional. Fair enough. I can't fault him for that. But the football was shit. And I just think he sort of got away with it. And then all of a sudden, I feel like we're sort of making excuses again. And I think it's about time we don't. Richarlison had a poor season at Everton this season. No excuse, no cap, no bullshit, let's be real. He had a poor season. And all of you may have excuses for that. I've got excuses for that. But we have to stop all of this. We have to be more, in my opinion, serious, straight talking, aggressive with our thoughts. Not against the club, because the club fundamentally have done nothing wrong in this situation. They've been fucked by Carlo. They've been bent over and taken really, really hard. Like, we dropped the soap big style. Like, we didn't just drop one bar. We had about 10 bars dropped, all scattered around on the floor. And Carlo's got plenty of time to sweep in, finish his job, and get out of there before we've even got up off the floor. And I sort of think if Richarlison wants to leave, let him. I sort of think this is a moment where Everton should sort of just press reset. Anyone who doesn't want to be at Everton Football Club, let them go. Let them. Because Carlo said it himself. If you don't want to be here, you won't be here. And his tactics, his team selections were still horrendous. Fabian Delph was getting games, etc. But, you know, if some of these players are genuinely here just to pick up a pay packet, we've got to make their life really difficult to get them out of the club. And it sounds awful, because these are human beings at the end of the day, and it's our fault they're on this money. But we shouldn't be soft. And if Richarlison wants to leave, if Carlo Ancelotti wants to engage in conversations with Richarlison, I personally think we should let him. I personally think we should just let him. If that's the case, that's the case. You've got to pay our asking price. It's very similar to Boyz Keane. You want to go, you go. But we're going to expect X amount of money for you. And if we get, say, 55, 60 million for Richarlison and 45, 50 million for Boyz Keane, that's 110-ish million for a new manager, whoever it may be, to get his teeth into it. I'm not against that. I'm not against that. I think 110 million could make a big difference in this squad, with two players that, you know, if Richarlison wants to go, off you go, and Boyz Keane wants to go, off you go. Fair enough. I'm cool with it. I'm not against that at all. So, yeah, cool, fine, do it. And this video, as you can clearly see, well, it depends if the thumbnail's been made yet. I don't make the thumbnails. But as you can clearly see, this video I wanted to talk about 3 individuals, and that is Duncan Ferguson, Maurizio Sarri and Rafa Benitez. And I want to explain why I've broke it down to those 3 and not included managers like Nuno Espirito Santos and Eddie Howe. So firstly, I want to give you the pros and cons of all of them. And I know I did this yesterday, but I really wanted to break it down in these 3 because when I've sat down and looked at it, I sort of think they all can offer something. So, Rafael Benitez. Let's get the worst one out the way, in my opinion. Rafael Benitez at Liverpool did a good job. They won the Champions League. They played good football. You can't really criticise the job he did at Liverpool. He obviously then gets the Real Madrid job. He goes and manages some big teams. He then gets the Newcastle job. And he does well. They fall in love with him. His football wasn't necessarily the most exciting, but you could see that if Rafael Benitez had, in my opinion, the backing of a good chairman, I think Newcastle would have been a very decent side under Rafa Benitez. I could see them trying to build that. Now, don't get me wrong, he was given a little bit of money, but Steve Bruce got £100 million. And I'd argue that Rafa was better. I think Rafa could do a job at Everton. I'm going to put my balls on the line and say I think Rafa could do a job for Everton. There's certainly worse candidates out there. Eddie Howe. I'd rather have Rafa Benitez than Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe's an Everton fan. Because I still think Rafa Benitez has a little bit of gravitas, that he can bring a few of these players in, that I think he's still got enough about him that I could see potentially his plan. I'm not saying the next manager of Everton Football Club should be handed a 4.5-year deal. I really don't. I actually think they should get a 2-year deal. But I genuinely think Rafa Benitez could be a viable, a not massively expensive manager. I think he'd probably take £4 million a year, something like that, compared to what Carlo was getting, which was 11 plus bonuses, which ended up being 13 million per season. I really do think that you can do worse than Rafa Benitez. And his win record at Newcastle was good. He didn't have the players to play attacking football, but we know he can play attacking football because we've seen it before. Yes, football has changed 15 years ago to now. It's very, very different, but I could think of worse. That's what I'm saying. I could think of worse, and I think I'm not against Rafa Benitez. Let me just say that. And I know there's be a lot of people that will slag me in the comments for this. And as you see, if you make it personal, you'll just appear on a video. So it's up to you how you want to do that. But for me, I'm not against it. And that's just me being honest with you. Then we go to Maurizio Sarri, who, again, had a spell at Chelsea in the Premier League. He's a heavy smoker. But, I mean, he'll be smoking even worse when after 2 months. He'll honestly, there's pictures, I reckon he'd be doing like 100 a day. Honestly, it'd be horrendous. But for me, I think that, again, he's got decent pedigree. He can attract some decent players. I think he's a decent tactician. Again, I think you could sort of see the process he was trying to follow at Chelsea. And I think if he was given more time, I think he would have done a decent job. So again, I'm not against Sarri. And I certainly think Sarri's possibly the biggest name available, because it very much looks like Conte is going to go to Spurs. So Sarri does look the biggest available in terms of brand, in terms of person, in terms of his sort of no shit attitude. And I'm not against that. Again, You know, I want these players in this team, this deadwood, the players who aren't asked whether they play or not. I want them worked hard. I want them worked hard. I want them shown what they need to be doing. I want them trying to do the right thing by Everton Football Club. And I think Sarri would be a tough nut to crack for a lot of those players. And I think a lot of them would eventually. I think the deadwood would definitely be brushed aside. Let's just say that. And then the other one we lead on to is Duncan Ferguson. And the reason why I wanted to include Duncan in this is because, look, I'm not for Duncan becoming manager for several reasons. And you are more than entitled to your opinion. Obviously, you all are. Duncan, for me, I'm going to talk about the pros of Duncan, as I have done with both the other managers. Duncan, for me, isn't ready for this job. And I would hate him to be given it on a permanent basis and it to go peak-tong very quickly. I don't want it to go wrong really quick on him because I love Duncan, just like we all do. I've got so much time for the guy. I just don't want that mark on his history at Everton. Look, he hasn't won trophies at Everton really, and he's never really been a prolific goal scorer, but he's almost got legend status because he would die for this team, and that would rub off on the players. We saw it. He managed, I think it was 5 games. I don't think we lost a game. You know, we drew at Man United after being 1-0 up. The worst one was Arsenal at home, which was 0-0. But he beats Chelsea, he wins he actually had 5 really tough games. And I think if I remember, he got 11 points. Or something like that. He did really well. So, I can see why people want that. I get it. Like, I understand it. My worry is what happens if it does go bad, if he doesn't get that result. You know, is he going to go in the changing room and absolutely blast the players? And there'll be some people on here, I think John would be of this opinion, that thinks, good, they deserve to know that they've lost. But trust me, as a 29-year-old lad, and the people that I know that are younger than me, I don't know how well they'll respond to that. I think it's difficult in this day and age to get how to approach people right or wrong. I think you can get it wrong really easy. You know, my generation's called the snowflake generation, and you know, whether you agree with it or not, or whether you're soft or you're hard, your mindset is a winner or a loser, whatever, people react differently, and there's more sort of about it now than there was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I'm not saying Duncan would get it wrong. I'm not even saying he would get it right. But what I'm saying is, I don't know how he can manage it. Equally, I don't know how the others will. I don't know how the others do it. But they at least have the experience over Duncan. And that's why Duncan doesn't get the job right now. But this is also the reason I only give the next manager a 2-3 year contract at most. Because I want Duncan to learn. I want him to be taught. I want him to manage this football team. And I don't think his learning under Koeman, under Marco Silva would have been great. I think under Carlo, I think he was just there. Honestly, when I look at David Ancelotti, his comments, when I look at the way that Duncan would interact on the touchline with Carlo, at first I used to think, oh, Carlo's listening to him, he's educating him, but actually, when you actually analyse and look at the body language, I kind of think Carlo was just brushing him off. I think there's been an issue with Carlo for a long time, and it wouldn't surprise me if Duncan was kind of aware of it. and sort of, he probably grew frustrated as well, Duncan did. I mean, I don't know, we're never going to know. But for me, I just don't think he's ready. And look, if Duncan Ferguson got the job, I'll back him 100%, like I will any manager for Everton Football Club. You could bring Eddie Howe into Everton Football Club and I will back him 100%. But I won't get excited. I won't go into the season thinking, oh, it's going to be amazing. There's not a single manager available right now that I'm excited for. Not one. Not a single manager. Because I put my faith in Carlo Ancelotti and he has literally laughed at it. He's literally gone on Madrid's TV and Madrid press conferences and mugged us all off. Our entire football club, our entire fan base. This was a man that I had the utmost respect for, even before he managed Everton. You know, he was Mr. Ancelotti. He was the godfather of football. You know, he was the pinnacle of what all managers wanted to be. And whether he's successful or not at Madrid, I couldn't care less. But the three managers I've just spoken about there are three managers that I believe, whether I'm for them in or out or not involved or managed, whatever, they are three managers that I could see as building something longer term. And I think Sarri would take time, more time than the other two. I think Ferguson would struggle attracting the players, personally. And I think Benitez would attract the players, but he could hinder their footballing ability. And then I am just going to mention Nuno. Nuno for 2 or 3 years at Wolverhampton Wanderers played great football. He got them promoted from the Championship, spent a lot of money. He pulled in some good players. Obviously, we all know about players like Neves, who was the Porto captain at one point in the Champions League, who signed for Wolverhampton Wanderers in the Championship. It was a huge piece of business. But for me, it ran its course. So if you want a manager who can do a job for 2 years, maybe create a little bit more flair, maybe bring in some good players, spend a lot of money on Portuguese players, which I'm not against, by the way. If they're going to improve the team, create a bit of flair, get us off our feet, I'm not against that. But for me, what I personally want a manager who's managed at the top level, managed a big team, knows what it looks like to sort of have success. We had that with Carlo. I want a hungry manager, someone who is ambitious. And I do genuinely believe that the three people I've commented about are all hungry. We will see. We will see. So, guys, I'm leaving it there. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know we're just dragging on and on and on about this, and it's shit. Everton have also come out and said that they're not necessarily going to make an appointment imminently. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I also think it is a bad thing. So, one, I'd like them to get in early. But there's a European competition in the middle, so is there a point? They're not going to be looking at Everton players on a daily basis anyway. We certainly need a new manager in the week before pre-season starts. And the players come back. I think we definitely need one there. He can go through the squad. You know, footballing men, no footballing players. You know, we know that we need a winger. We know we need a right back. They will know that. It's not like these people don't know the Premier League at all. They'll look at the Everton squad and they'll say, yeah, right, we need this, we need that, we need this. And they'll have their own ideas. So we do need them in. Personally, genuinely right now, if I was a betting man, I think I'd put money on Rafa. I think I'd put money on Rafa, and I don't know why. I've got no reason to believe it's Rafa, but it just wouldn't surprise me. So, right, I'm leaving it there. Have a fantastic evening, and I shall see you soon.